I came into aviation the hard way. I was never in the RAF, and my parents hadn't got £1,500 to spend on pilot training for me at a flying school. My father was, and is, a crane driver at Southampton Docks, and I am one of 7 children, 5 boys and 2 girls. I went to the council school like all the other kids in our street, and then when I left school, Dad got me a job in a garage out on the Portsmouth Road. That was in 1929. I stayed there for about 3 years and got to know a bit about cars. Then early in the summer, Sir Alan Cobham came to Southampton with his flying circus. National Aviation Day he called it. He operated in a big way because he had about 15 aeroplanes, Avros and Moths, and a glider, and an autogyro, and a Lincoln for stunting displays, and a big old Handley Page airliner for mass joyriding, and a new thing called an airspeed ferry. My, that was a grand turnout to watch. I knew from the first day that to be with that circus was the job for me. He was at Hamble for 3 days, and I was out at the field each day from early morning till dark. The chaps fueling and cleaning down the aircraft let me help them, cordoning down a hose or fetching an oil drum for them to stand on. When there was nothing else that wanted doing, I went round the enclosures, picking up waste paper that the crowd had left behind and taking it away to burn in a corner of the field. Okay. It was fun just doing that because of the aeroplanes. I got the sack from the garage on the 2nd day. On the evening of their last day, I went to the foreman of the ground crew and asked him for a job. He said I was too young, and they were full up anyway. He said that he was sorry. I went home all down in the dumps that night. I must say Dad and Mum were good. They didn't lay into me for getting the sack from the garage, although they might well have done. I told them airily that I was going to get a job with the circus. And when I went home, I suppose they saw by my face that I hadn't got it. They were ever so nice. Ma opened a small tin of salmon for tea to make a bit of a treat for me. The show was going on to Portsmouth, 20 miles away, and I told them I was going over there the next day. All Dad said was, "That's right, keep trying." I went to Portsmouth on an early bus, and I was out at the airport long before the first machines flew in, helping the ground crew to put up the first enclosures around the edges of the aerodrome. The foreman scratched his head when he saw me, but they were always short-handed, so he didn't turn me off. He must have said something to Sir Alan though, because while I was holding a pole straight for another chap to hammer into the ground, Sir Alan himself came up behind me. "Who are you?" he asked. "I thought we'd left you behind at Hamble." "My name's Tom Cutter," I said. "Well, what are you doing here, Tom?" "Helping to get this posting, sir," I said. I was a bit shy at being talked at by a knight. "Have you got a job?" "Got the sack day before yesterday," I said. It sounded bad, but I didn't know what else to say. "Is that because you spent so much time out here with us?" "I suppose so," I said reluctantly. He snorted. "Well, don't be such a young fool. Go back and ask to be taken on again. There's no work here for you. What was the job?" "I was in a garage, sir. I can't go back. They took on another boy." "Well, we can't take you on here. We're full up. I've got hundreds of boys writing to me for jobs every day. Hundreds and hundreds. I've got no jobs to give." "Mr. Dixon told me there wasn't any job," I said. "I just thought that if I came over while I'm doing nothing, I could help, picking up the paper and that." He stared at me so long in silence that I felt quite awkward. I know now what a good answer that was. "I'm blowed if I know," he said at last, and walked away. I couldn't make head nor tail of that. I went on all that morning helping put up the enclosures, and when dinner came round, the foreman said I'd better go and get my dinner in the mess tent with the rest of the men. It was good of him, because being out of work, I hadn't got any money to chuck around. I went and helped park the cars in the car park when they started to come in for the afternoon show. And then I watched the show again. They had stunt displays and wing walking and a parachute descent and a pretty girl flying a glider. They had a public address loudspeaker system rigged up, and the announcer stood up once and said that Sir Alan Cobham had offered to let any pilot of the last war try his hand at flying again. A pilot dressed up as an old tramp came out of the crowd and did a bit of clowning with the announcer, and tripped over his umbrella and fell flat, and got into an Avro back to front, and took it off the ground facing the tail, holding his hat on, waving his umbrella and shouting blue murder, and went into the best bit of crazy flying ever seen in England, bellowing all the time to be told how to land it as he went crabbing down the enclosures 3 feet up, and the announcer bellowing back at him. My, that was fun. They finished up with the Gretna Green elopement of a couple in a terrible old Model T Ford, with father chasing them all over the aerodrome in a moth and bombing them with little paper bags of flour and rolls of toilet paper. I'd seen it all before, but I could have watched that show forever. I'd go and see it again, even now. I went and helped unpark the cars and get them away after the show. Sir Alan had been flying the Handley Page himself most of the afternoon, joyriding, taking up 25 passengers at a time. He handed over to another pilot at about 5 o'clock and came through the car park to his caravan for tea. He was always in a hurry, but never in too much of a hurry to notice the humblest detail of his big concern. And he checked when he saw me. "You still here?" he asked. "I've been helping park the cars and that," I said. "Oh, get any tips?" 3 and 6, I said. "Fair enough. Want to earn 5 bob?" I grinned and nodded. "I'll give you 5 bob if you'd like to do the girl in Gretna Green this evening. Think you can do that?" "Oh, aye," I said, "I can do that all right. Thank you, sir." I was young, of course, and I'd got a fresh, pink and white face in those days, so I could make up as a girl quite well. All I had to do was to dress up in the most terrible women's clothes and drive about on the aerodrome in the old Ford, trying to get out of the way of the moth. The Ford was driven by a boy about my own age, Connie Shacklin. Connie was short for Constantine. He was a cheerful, yellow-skinned young chap with straight black hair who put me in the way of things. He was dressed up as a young farmer in a sort of smock, and we did the turn together. We never turned that Ford over, but we came bloody near to it sometimes. It was good fun. We wheeled and skidded the thing all over the aerodrome, shrieking and hugging and kissing, while the moth dived on us and bummed us. The show ended, of course, with my skirt getting pulled off and me running off the field in a pair of red flannel knickers, covered in flour and with streamers of toilet paper all over me, while the crowd laughed fit to bust. I got the 5 bob, and Sir Alan himself said I'd done very well. That was the first money I ever made in aviation.